Westminster, doing things a little bit differently this week. I want to make tomato soup. And in order to do that, we're going to start our soup in the crock pot. It needs to be in the crock pot for 6 hours. We're going to start that and then come back in 6 hours and finish up. I've got so many tomatoes in my garden. I am my ungraceful gardener this week again. I've got tomatoes, I've got an onion. We are making tomato soup. We're also going to make cornbread, but we'll get to that. We're going to start the tomato soup in a crock pot. It's got to sit in the crock pot, working away and doing its thing for 6 hours. When you're going to do this at home, because I know you're going to, it's a delicious soup, you can get this ready and set it to come on when you're leaving for work in the morning. It'll be there when you come home to finish, and you'll be able to eat 20 minutes later. Easy peasy. You need 3 pounds of tomatoes. These ones are from my garden, but I checked the flyers. And you can get a 3-liter basket like this for $4.99 at Freshco, and it's heaping. Or you can buy tomatoes, excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm sorry again. You can buy tomatoes for 99 cents a pound at No Frills. So, I mean, $3 worth of tomatoes. It's a no-brainer. Other thing you need is 1 onion. You don't need to use this. I always buy passata. I love it. It's it works in so many things. All this is tomatoes, okay? So this is just strained tomatoes. What we really need is a cup of tomato juice. I use half a cup of this, and the rest I just thin it out with water. I like it better. And then you don't get all the additives of buying tomato juice, right? All the stuff that's in there. You need a cup of white wine. I have used red. I prefer the white. You know what? If you've got an open bottle of wine that is at risk of going to waste, then by all means use whatever you've got going on. And then some kind of seasoning. I brought some basil, and that's all we're going to do. We're going to get it all ready, chop it up, put it in the crock pot, and then when we come back in 6 hours' time, we're going to then present it in our sort of usual way. So these tomatoes I've given a good rinse too. Some of them need the tops cut off. You know what? I'm going to grab the crock pot of the crock pot, so I can just slice it straight into there. There is no need to peel or do anything. We're putting in the whole tomatoes. Just quarter them. They're going to disappear. Okay, so we're just quartering and tossing. And how easy is this, right? This makes beautiful soup, I got to tell you. This is the best. I love it. It tastes fresh. Of course it does. Just quarter them. 3. How can you imagine, right? This is not hard. We're going to get all of this put in here, and then, I don't like that tip, so I might cut that off. Once we get this all in there and it cooks, then when we meet tomorrow, I'm still going to cut that off a little bit more. When we meet again, we're going to puree our soup base and then add cream to it. It's good. You'll love it. And you can freeze this. I'll talk a little bit when we come back about the point in the recipe where I sometimes freeze it to keep it. And I'll tell you what, I put it away and it's still good like a year later. You get it out of the freezer and you got a homemade soup ready to go. How can you go wrong with things like that? What I really like about this is this sort of just slice it and put it away. Grab the tomatoes, give them a rinse, cut them up, okay? That's all you need to do. The skins actually add to the soup in that they're putting in the pectin that helps it to set. So that's why you want to leave those skins on. When we puree it, that'll look after them, okay? So just, if the stem doesn't come off with the top, then you sometimes have to cut it, because that's not going to puree, that's just going to sit there. But we're almost done with them. The tomatoes, oh my goodness. This past weekend, my husband and I, we figured between what I froze, and when I freeze tomatoes, honestly, I give them a wash, I take the tips off, and I freeze them whole. And then all winter, I can grab out 3 pounds, I freeze them in 3-pound portions, and then I can just make a soup. I just do the same thing, only put the frozen tomatoes, I cut them up and throw them in the pot, and away I go. It's that easy. So when tomatoes are super cheap, then by all means grab them and freeze them, because they're great for making tomato sauce or soup. really anywhere you would use canned tomatoes, you can use frozen tomatoes. It's the easiest thing in the world to freeze. I know, these are nice tomatoes, right? We froze some. I made tomato sauce, we made pizza sauce, and something I'm forgetting. We figured we'd put away 60 pounds of tomatoes on the weekend, which is really crazy, right? You saw my garden, maybe you're not so surprised, but 60 pounds, that's a lot of tomatoes. I gotta tell you, my kitchen was a mess. What an ordeal. There was tomato everywhere, but I've got a lot of tomatoes put away and a lot of sauce. Look, 3 pounds done, just like that. Onions. Now, onions, my onions, you know, I had a bad incident in the garden. Our plum tree, which was loaded with fruit, we should have been pruning away some of the fruit, but we got excited about how much there was, and you know what, it was too much of a good thing, and it broke. The tree collapsed and under the weight of all the plums, I know, right? And so that happened, and when it fell on the little bed where we have a lot of our onions growing, and it ruined the onions on us. So I don't have as many storage onions this year as I've had in the past. Nevertheless, I've got some. But same thing, like for onions, if you see them for a good buy, if you grab them, or if you're at the farmer's market or something like that and you can get them, peel them, cut them into pieces, and then freeze them. And so I usually freeze them on a tray first, individually, like just spread them out on a cookie sheet or something. Freeze them and then bag them up, and then anything you're going to make, like if you're gonna do a roast, anything at all, you've got onions all cut up and ready to go. You just reach in the freezer, grab a handful, toss them in whatever you're cooking, into soups, into stews, anything at all, omelets, whatever you're doing with onions. You just grab a handful of frozen ones out of the, how easy is that? And then you're getting, you know, Ontario local onions, and how can you go wrong? There, that's all cleaned up. And that off the end, down the middle, we'll get rid of our little piece in the center there. I'll get that out of our way so you can actually see what I'm doing. And that piece out, I'll do that. I'm gonna wipe my hands. Now, we're just going to slice it up. And we don't need to worry about going too fine. Just, you know, I'll cut it again, but you don't need to get too nervous about the way you're cutting it. It's gonna go in soup, and it's going to get cooked really well and then go through the blender. So, just chop it up. I mean, it's a soup. You don't want these great big pieces, but you don't have to get too. Did you see that one? Jumper. So if you were doing them for the freezer, I wouldn't chop them up this much, but just in, like, think in strips. And then honestly, it's so convenient. And do the same thing with your peppers, okay? Just slice them up and freeze them. They're fantastic. Same thing. They're ready to go. You know, like when we do the sheet pan meals. Oh, my eyes are going. Wow. Woo! It got my eyes pretty good. Okay. We'll just push this in here. There we go. So we've got our onions and tomato in there. Seriously, this is too easy, right? We're gonna, this is basil from last year. I'm nearing the end. If you don't have basil, I mean, if you've got a shaker of Italian seasoning, just do maybe a tablespoon or two of it, and just toss it on top of your veggies. And I'm using this, so I've got to crumble it a bit because I don't crumble it when I set it. Just that. We'll salt and pepper it at the end, okay, when we're finishing it on the stove later. We won't do that yet. Asada, I love it, okay? Can't say it, and it's like $1, honestly. Like $1. Sometimes it's $1.99. Okay, do you know this trick? Did I just do a trick? When you've got a jar with a lid like this, smack the bottom. You know I don't want to ask for help. It comes off every time. You gotta smack the bottom, okay? Just any jar. It works every time, I promise you. We want You know what, now I'm debating. I want 2 cups. So I'm gonna go 1 cup of my passata, and then I'm gonna top it up with water to 2 cups because this is too thick. I really only want juice. So I'm just going to get this, and we're up to the 2 cup line here now, which is what I wanted. And I have a spatula over here, because I don't want to lose any. And all I did was thin it down because that's just strained tomatoes. It's way too thick, so I'm just doing that. And then scoop it out. And now we want a cup of wine. There we go. Haha. It almost defeated me, but not. And 1 cup of wine. That's it. And this is that fancy cheap cooking wine that we bought ages ago. I don't remember what for. I think we paid $4 or $5 for it. And it lasts forever. I mean, come on, right? It's just, and it stands out. It's the big, it's a difference. Makes it a step beyond Campbell's, right? Okay, everything's in there. All we're going to do now is just push it around a little bit so that we get some of the wine and juice all the way through. And finally, a little bit of sugar. I'm gonna go 2 tablespoons. I know my tomatoes are nice and sweet. I mean, obviously, when you get tomatoes, if you were doing this in the dead of winter when the tomatoes have come from who knows where, then you might wanna go heavier on the sugar. And again, just do that. It helps to break them down. It's not really just a flavoring thing, it also helps to break them down in the cooking. So, push it around, don't lose any. This is it. This is ready to go. We've got this all set. I'm gonna put it in the crock pot on low for 6 hours. That's it. I'm gonna see you in 6 hours and we'll pick it up where we've left off. Hi there, it's a new day at Westminster Kitchen. And crock pot, Shannon and I were in last night, put the tomatoes and the onions and the juice, the wine, all that stuff, all that good stuff into the crock pot. Set it for 6 hours. We're back here this morning. We're ready to finish the soup. First, we're making cornbread with our soup because you need something with. The cornbread this week is a bit of a fun thing because on Tuesday of next week, Tuesday, September 14th, Dufferin Board of Trade is putting on a Think Local market at the Shelburne Fiddle Park. And we're participating. Kitchen at Westminster is going to be there. Something that we've put together are, you know, the jar kits. So instead of doing jars, I got these great biodegradable cups. So no waste, no bad garbage, you know, my garbage problems, right? So these are biodegradable. I've made up all sorts of these jar kits. Did a soda bread, so an unyeasted bread, cornbread, which we're working on today, and these are great. Banana muffins, pancakes, Play-Doh, snack cake, chocolate chip cookies, and brownies. These are great, right? Everything you need in there in your dry ingredients. Most of the recipes require an egg, some oil, maybe some butter, things like that stuff you're gonna have in your house. The market runs from 3 to 7 p.m. on Tuesday. I hope that you'll come. Apparently there's 60 vendors going to be there, so this is a fun thing to do. And I mean, what the heck, right? Why not? It's nice. It's gonna be a nice night out. Come and see me. We're gonna sell these for $3 a piece or 2 for $5, which is a great buy. Okay. So today, because we had some extra cornmeal, so I thought, well, why wouldn't I do cornbread with the tomato soup today? So that's where we're at. These are gonna be fun though, and it would be great to see people. When you're there, tell me that you saw it on Saving Thyme this week, and we can work out a little discount, I think, okay? So if you come to the market, make sure you say, I've heard you talk about it on Saving Thyme. Let's get this. I want you to preheat your oven to 375. Aha, I remembered to say it. So working from this, I'm hoping that I've got enough. I need 1 3/4 cups. Yes, so hopefully there's enough in here. This is a 1/4 cup measure. I need 7, 2, 3, 4. There's my 1 cup. 5, I'm gonna make it. This is easy. Now I need something to, you know what, I'm not gonna get too nervous. There's a little going over, we're not gonna be nervous about that. 6. There's a lot going over. We're just not gonna fill it completely. There's 7, there you go. And look, there's a tiny bit left. Shannon's laughing at me because she thinks it's funny that I do these things, but if we measured, I bet I'm dead on. It's a fine skill. We need, sorry, I don't have my glasses on and that's a mistake, 3/4 of a cup of flour. So if you bought the little kit, this is all the stuff that you would have in your kit, okay? So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3/4 of a cup of flour. Done. I'm just gonna stick this lid on so that if I drop something, it doesn't end up in the bin of flour. And then I need 1½ teaspoons of baking powder. So we can go 1½ Look, I measure when I'm baking, okay? Measure when you're baking, it matters. It matters. Something like the soup, not so much. But you know, baking powder, baking soda, these things are gonna make a difference in your final product. We need 1 teaspoon of soda. There we go. And a teaspoon of salt. I know that sounds like a lot. It's cornbread, okay? It's not a muffin, it's not a dessert. You want it to have some good flavor. There you go, teaspoon of salt. Now, excuse me, if you bought the kit, all of this is in here. Okay, this is the contents of the kit. You don't have to go out and buy all these ingredients, it's all in there. So now, we'll give a little whisk around, blend it. You want to make sure especially that your baking powder, baking soda get in there. And by whisking a little bit, you remove any lumps out of the flour as well, okay? So give it a little whisk. You're not like doing a lot here, we're just whisking. Now, we need to use melted butter. And I've got some right here. We need 1/4 cup. I forgot again. I'm gonna have to deke out and scoot over to the microwave, but we can do that off camera. Just let me, I'll come back to that actually. Well, here, I need a glass dish is what I was thinking, and I was looking at my metal and my plastic and thinking none of those are gonna work. We know that's 1/4 cup, we've talked about it. 1 stick is a 1/2 cup, so half of the stick is 1/4 cup. And then you can put that back in the fridge for later, or leave it out because you're gonna want to butter your cornbread, okay? Don't put it too far away. The next thing we do is we need to add eggs, 2 eggs. And I'm sorry, I've got a frog in my throat this week, and I think it's just the end of summer somehow, allergens and pollens. Everything's busy out there right now, getting ready to tuck in for the winter. I know, right? It's kind of a weird thing to say when it's still warm, but it's September. This recipe calls for 1 1/4 cups of buttermilk. Now, if you happen to have buttermilk in the house, that's great, but if you don't want to go out and buy a liter of buttermilk just to make one recipe for 1 cup, handy little trick. Start by putting a tablespoon of either lemon juice or vinegar in the bottom of your measuring cup, and then fill it to 1 cup with regular milk. Let it sit for at least 5 minutes. It starts to curdle a little bit. That's what we want. We want that sour tang. Okay, we want that to happen. So that's what I've done here. I've got a tablespoon of lemon juice, and then I topped it up to 1 1/4 cups with regular milk. I'm gonna add 2 eggs to that and give them a little spin together. I almost put my egg in the compost bowl by accident. Oops, that would have been a drag. But I didn't. And that's what matters. There we go. Look, we're barely even making compost this week. This is a great, great meal for us. I kind of want a fork. Shannon, I'm sorry, I'm going to scoot over here and grab a fork. Excuse me just for a moment. I don't have a tiny whisk here, and I want to break up those yolks. So I just want to break up the yolks before I add it to my dry goods. And then after we add this, we're just gonna add our melted butter and then into the oven. I mean, it's that easy. Especially if you had the kit, you would have you would have just dumped it in there and then done this. So easy. And all you would need to complete your kit, 2 eggs, a cup of buttermilk, and a 1/4 cup of butter. There we go, dump it in. Try not to waste any. I've got a spatula right here, so I'm not going to think about it too much. I'm just going to use it. There we go. And I'll put that back in there. Got some messes on the counter, and that, you know, it bugs me if I've got messes. So I'm just going to wipe them up with my usual hand towel. There we go. And now give it a whisk, just enough to get everything moist, okay? We're gonna give it a good stir when we add the butter. Just blend that through. There we go. That's gonna be fine because we're gonna come back to it. I wanna get that last bit there, good enough. Shannon, give me a second to run across the hall, be right back. Melted butter. And add it to your mix. And you can see now I've just got a wooden spoon out and just stir it through. See how the baking soda and the cornmeal and everything is reacting? Look at those nice little bubbly things happening in there. That's exactly what we want to see, okay? So keep that moving. It's the beauty of cornbread, that action right there. We're just making sure that it's through. Do that. Now back to my spatula. I'm gonna get it all. I don't want to waste any, okay? So clean it off your spoon. Throw our spoon in there. This dish is buttered. Make sure you butter it. Now I do want to say, if you opted to and you wanted to make cornbread muffins instead of one pan, by all means, change your baking temperature to 425 and start having a peek at them at about 10-12 minute mark, okay? But I like doing it in here. I like the style of it like this. And there we go. Scoop it all in. It's cornbread is its own beast, right? Like that looks different than anything else you make. I don't know what there's some chemical reaction with all the ingredients and it comes together that way. Now, and another thing I'd like to say about the cornbread is, I mean, feel free to throw in some add-ins. If you were having this with chili, maybe a little bit of grated cheddar in there would be a nice touch. If you, who knows what, a couple chopped up peppers, anything goes, okay? Some green onion, chives, anything, depending what you're serving it with, okay? I don't want it to compete with my soup. I want it to complement the soup. So I'm not adding things. And just clean that up. There. That's it. Cornbread is made. Are you kidding me? Right? Too easy. We're going to put it in the oven for 35 minutes, maybe 40. We'll have a check at the 35 mark. Set that in there. In she goes. 375, 35 minutes. Got it on my timer. Press start. I'm going to clean up the kitchen a little bit. We'll come back and finish our soup so that everything's ready at the same time. See you in a bit. Okay, everything's all cleaned up. Let's get on to the soup. So, just, it's heavy. We've got lots going on. Lid off. Oh, it looks great. And you can see things are just all softened up and depleted in there. Now, grab yourself a slotted spoon. Okay, this is probably for serving salad or something, but nevertheless, it's going to do the job. I don't need to puree the broth. I want to puree the tomato and onion. So just, there always seems to be, you know, where it boiled down a little bit of a edge there. Mix it through, and then start scooping, okay? Depending on the capacity of your blender, I can usually do this one, sometimes I need 2 batches through the blender. So just, you're gonna see, don't overfill your blender or, I mean, one time I don't know what happened, but the lid blew off. And you can imagine what a colossal mess we had on our hands. It was not nice. I'm gonna start with that much, give it a little whir, and then add some more. I don't trust that that spoon's not gonna sink in there on me, so I'm gonna set it out. I don't wanna fish it out if it falls in. Lid on. I've got my blender over here, and onto the base it goes. On, hopefully it's not gonna be too loud. Now, you know your blender better than I, you know, they're all a little bit different. I always start slow and then increase a little bit, but I feel like I don't want things to go crazy. And I always keep my hand on the top in case it goes. So I'm gonna spin it, increase the speed a little. We're looking to get a puree, okay? That's gonna be fine now. And now that that part's done, I'm gonna add more tomatoes. See how easy this is? And look at this. You know what we put in here. All beautiful, fresh ingredients. Your soup is gonna taste exactly like that. Beautiful, fresh ingredients. This is so easy and nice. We've hardly worked. We've hardly worked, and we're making beautiful soup. And we used those nice fresh tomatoes at $1 a pound. Excuse me, you can't go wrong. This is looking pretty full. So I might hold back some of the tomatoes and get rid of some of what I already pureed. This is a work in progress, okay? You need to pay attention to your blender. You don't want a giant mess on your hands, okay? You're not gonna thank me if you end up with a mess in your kitchen. Tomato soup on the ceiling. And I'm laughing like that would be funny. Not funny, Margot. And again, start slow. And then mix it up a little more. That's probably good there. And then I've just got a little bit more in here to do. I'll pour some out. I don't know, like look at the color. Can you imagine how nice this is? And that's why you want this slotted spoon, okay, so that you can reach through and just get what you need. There, I'm almost done. There's not much more floating around in here. There we go. A little bit more. Just keep it. It's like a carnival game, right, where you're fishing for something. And I'm gonna scope around. Oh my goodness, they're hiding in here. You know, 3 pounds of tomatoes doesn't sound like much, and it makes a lot of nice soup. There you go. There's some onion. And if you think, like, you're gonna choose your own seasonings. If you know your family loves garlic, you could have thrown some minced garlic in there with your tomatoes and onion. I don't really want that flavor in there. That's good. That's good. This will be our last whir in the blender. Now, and maybe your blender has a bigger capacity and you could have done it all in one. I'm not in favor of having a mistake. I see I dripped a little, so I'll just do that. Last shot. And we'll go a little faster. That's going to be great. Off it comes. Now, we're going to blend it all now into a pot. Everything that's in there is going to end up in here. And we can empty this into here. Shannon's showing me, that's okay. We're gonna have an onion in our soup. It's gonna be okay. The person who gets that is gonna count themselves lucky to get that nice piece of onion. So pour it in. If you can pour on the side of the pot, it doesn't splash as much. So if you can pour down the side, do it. I'm gonna use this, I don't wanna waste any. Just clean it out and get yourself a nice big pot. And then this is going in. Now, this is gonna be all right. We're just gonna go slow so I don't get splashed. It'd be a bad time to be wearing a lot of white. Tomatoes and white clothes don't really get along. That's all done. Now, at this point, we have the base of our soup. We need to add cream to it. Before I do that, I just want to tell you a great saving part of this soup. Because right now tomatoes are fresh. If you've got a lot in your garden, this is the time to do this. You cook your soup this far and then put it into mason jars, label it, freeze it. So I usually a 1 liter jar and then just make a little note on it. That'll do about 2 of those 1 liter jars, and then each time you just have to heat that up. You thaw it, you heat it, you add 1 cup of cream instead of 2 cups of cream. You're gonna have soup ready in the freezer. You get it out, you thaw it, it's brilliant, and it tastes beautiful. So at this stage, this is where you would freeze it. Put it into the jars while it's hot, get the lids on, then let them sit on the counter until they're room temperature, until they don't feel hot anymore. Don't put a hot jar in the freezer. Bad things happen when you do that. Leave a little space in the top of the jar as well for expansion. So leave at least a 1/4 inch. I usually go to like where the threaded part is on the mason jar, and I count that as enough head space. We're gonna get this ready. We need 2 cups of cream. I'm using 10%. You can use homogenized milk if you want to. You can use, I'm just going to use this. I've got markings on here, and then at the same time, it's going to clean this out a little bit for me. That side, there we go. One side has, there's my 2 cup mark right there. If I put my glasses on, I'd see even better. And then this is going to rinse my blender at the same time and get those last little bits. There's my 2 cup mark. Oh, I think so. Shannon, can you see really well on there? Is that my 2 cup mark right there? Yeah, yay, thank you. And then I do this every time because why wouldn't I, right? Now I've got that. And again, just pour slowly. And there. Clean it out again. Why not, right? We just rinse that. We've got to wash this one anyway. And now blend it through. And the soup, the tomato part is still warm, but we've added the cream. So what we're doing now is we're heating it through. This is, 5-10 minutes on the stove. We're gonna leave it on the stove on low heat until our cornbread's ready, and then everything will be ready at the same time. That's ready to go. That can go there. This onto the stove, put it on medium-low heat, and just let it simmer. Don't let it boil, okay? Do not let it boil. I know we talked about this with the potato soup. The milk will curdle if you let it boil, okay? So don't let it boil, medium-low. You're just heating it up, okay? We're not cooking it, it's cooked. We're just heating it. I'm gonna see you when the cornbread's ready, the soup will be hot. Go set your table, clean up your kitchen. It's almost supper time. I just took the cornbread out of the oven. It looks beautiful. Soup is coming off the stove. Here we go. Oh my gosh, it looks nice. Look at this beautiful pot of soup. And you can see how much you've got, easily enough for 4 people here. I cut the pan of cornbread into 9 pieces, and I've got 1 out already. I just wanted to lift it out and make sure it was all good. Let's get some soup in this bowl. We can eat, these are kind of small ladles, but that's okay. We'll just do more. Easily enough for 4 people here, easily. You're gonna get more than enough with that. I think we can fit a 2nd piece of cornbread on there. We've got 9 pieces, that's 2 each plus an extra. So 4 people, easy peasy. You can see the steam coming off of it, and that is exactly what you want, because next you want everybody to butter that cornbread and have a good time. Look at this beautiful meal. I went out and bought just a couple of things, spent $6 at Freshco the other day, just getting the last few things. This meal came together for next to nothing. Even if you had to go out and spend $1 a pound on your tomatoes, you're in under $10. You've got enough soup for 4 people, beautiful cornbread. I love this meal, and it tastes like the garden. It tastes like summer. So nice. Please like the video if you enjoy these recipes. Subscribe to the Westminster Orangeville channel. Hit the little bell so you know when the next video is ready. And for heaven's sake, please, if you can on Tuesday, come by and see me. Tuesday, September 14th, 3 to 7 at the Fiddle Park in Shelburne. I'm gonna put this soup into some mason jars and take it away to another family here in Orangeville to share this beautiful garden soup. I'll see you next week. In the meantime, quit letting food eat up all your time and money.